Hello friends, and welcome to another weekly garden walk and talk. It's Hila here from Hila at Home. I garden in a medium-sized garden in the north of England, and it's a USDA Zone 9A. So in the vegetable garden, this is the raised bed that had some onions and garlic that I harvested a couple of weeks ago now. And what I've done is I've sowed some very fast growing vegetables. So there's some peas called Onward, and I've got some carrots, and the carrots have already started germinating. They've been in there for about 5 days now. And I also have some very fast growing green beans, and I planted a couple of sunflowers. So we're going to see what goes on over there. And the idea is that we're trying to fix nitrogen back into that soil. The sweet mange 2 or sweet peas are doing really well. I've covered them over in this black anti-bed netting. Which is working quite well. And I'm showing you there that a grey cloud has just come on over just as I started doing the garden walk and talk, and it started raining, and that's why it's a little bit shorter today. My butternut squash is doing a lot better ever since I put in the cut-off water bottle that allows water to go directly to it. It's growing really well, as is the leeks and the marigolds in that other bed there. The courgette plant is getting to the point now where it's made some fruit, and it's just making sure that we keep it watered. Now, this is the male flower that I've taken off, and you can tell it's the male flower because it doesn't have a fruit at the bottom of it, and those taste delicious just added to anything that you're making. The runner beans are going quite strong. A lot of them have wound themselves up the support and are headed towards the skies. And I was pleasantly surprised to find a second asparagus spear on my asparagus. So that was very exciting. The Climanthus on the trellis is still going very, very strong. And I'm just really happy about that. By this point, the little spitting rain had become a little bit stronger, and we've had so much wind these last couple of days. It's been really terrible with the wind, so a lot of the fruit from the fruit trees, the apple, the plums, and the green gages have ended up falling down, and we're having to work extra hard to pick them from the lawn so that they don't begin to rot on the lawn. My main gardening task that I did this weekend was to clear up this jungle. If you remember, this was completely covered over with weeds, really terrible weeds, and so I cleared it up. And I had a little friend with me, a little robin that you just saw there hopping across, and it's just been having a lot of fun picking at the worms. But it yielded so many weeds. So there's several trucks full of weeds. All of these are from just clearing that space in front of the raspberries and a little bit around the trampoline. And there's an even bigger container that's got the weeds just next to the trellis, where now you can fully appreciate the clematis. But this is a 1-ton bag that came with sand when we were doing some works, and that's full of weeds as well. So I'm going to have to do a bonfire at some point to burn them off, but at least most of it has been cleared off, and we can easily access the raspberry canes over there. So that's the south-facing border, which is, I need to rework that. Quite a few things don't seem to be doing very well over there, but across on the other south-facing border, as you can see, everything is just going really lush and green, and we have a lot of the white daisies have just come into flower, and that's working quite well. This pink rose shrub is just incredible. It keeps on flowering. It's a repeat flowering one, and I'm very happy with how it's performing. I also managed to plant out the salvia, which is a great companion plant for roses, and you can see there how that purple is just popping. It's adding a bit more color into that section. And then over down the path, as you can see, the fruit trees are full of fruit, which I'm hoping that we're past the worst of the windy weather, because we have lost a lot of fruit because of the windy weather. But fingers crossed, it's all done for now. But another thing that I managed to plant out this past week was the rambling rector climbing rambler rose, and I decided to plant it here against this west facing wall. And the idea is that I'm going to build a support for it, and it will go up and clamber into the forsythia over here, which isn't doing as well as I would have liked it to. And the Ferdinand Pichard is still doing so beautifully. I love those colors. I cannot wait for this to become fully grown. When it's fully grown, it will be about 4 feet, and it's a shrub rose, so it's just going to be fabulous. The Japanese anemones are getting ready to bloom, and over here the hydrangea has really surprised me, because the last couple of years it hasn't really bloomed, but this year it's had quite a decent showing with the blue flowers. I also have a crochisma that's getting ready to bloom. It's a really lovely bright red, which will be a nice contrast to this Flor Bunda rose that has now become my favorite. Look at how many roses are just on one stalk. Every morning I get out of the house, I run to this rose and I just bury my face in it and just inhale it. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a very strong scent. That's the only sad thing about it, but it is so beautiful to look at. Even the camera on this phone cannot handle the bright vibrancy of the colors. Everything is starting to look wet now because it was beginning to chuck it down, as we like to say here in the north of England. But I was committed to finishing the walkthrough. Here, the Gilaine de Feligonde, which I have in the pot, is doing well. You can see there's some new buds over there, and I've been deadheading it. I had to move it from that section because the spider webs kept on building the cobwebs onto the rose itself, and I didn't like that, so I just moved it a few inches to the side. The onions and the garlic are in their second week of curing now, and it's been raining quite consistently, so I've had to keep them out of the rain. So because it's been so windy, you can see my Alfred Carriers has just been swept away from how it had been tied up, and I need to basically retie it. The Climanthus over here is just looking really lovely, and it's popping against that green foliage, and in a couple of weeks this path should have a lot more color once the Japanese anemones open up and the geraniums send out a second flush of flowers. So I'm just quickly walking over to the other section. You can see how untidy some of the things are, where I was so happy to see the tower lilies have blossomed. They've opened up and they are so beautiful. I love them so much. I now need to move this pot over to the patio where I can see it more regularly, because that will be facing out from the room that we spend a lot of our time in. But they've done really well. I bought these from B&Q, a big box shop, and fantastic. I'll definitely get more of them. I also managed to plant out the City of York, which is a rambling rose. And the idea is that I want it to go up this south-facing wall and it will mix in with the ivy. We have a really established mature ivy plant, and I think that the white flowers would look lovely against the green of the wall. So we'll see how that goes. And there the mauve's ball is still going very strong with those lovely lilac purpley flowers. Another thing that's going really well is this clematis that I have in a pot that's amongst the blueberries, and it's a really lovely light purple, a little bit warm It can look a little bit like burgundy from afar, but I think it's really quite pretty. But I will need to move it from the blueberries though, because it's struggling a bit since it's underneath the net to protect the blueberries from the birds. And we have a lot. The girls have been picking the blueberries as and when they turn, though I've been trying to tell them, can we wait until we can pick a lot at once? But they seem to enjoy picking at them. Everything is going quite well in this south-facing border. I've got some dwarf sweet peas that I started from seed, and those are beginning to flower. Unfortunately, these ones, they aren't as great to pick for cut flowers because they're quite short. The stems are quite short, unlike the other sweet peas that I have. So that's been the only disappointment with the dwarf ones, but they still look so pretty. I planted out the iceberg climbing rose in this section here just to add some vertical color. It's one that only goes up to about 4 or 5 feet, so at least it will add more interest on that wall. And there I am here with my broken umbrella. I managed to persist and finish the walkthrough, albeit very short, and I had to cut out quite a fair bit of the garden because it just started chucking it down, and this was us for the rest of the day. Here's hoping the weather brightens up over the next week. Thank you so much for coming to visit with us today. Until I see you next time, I wish you blue skies, health, and happiness. Bye.